Okay, so how about we go to Trump now that the charges have taken place? It does seem to be split opinions out there. Robert Barnes had a righteous rant on Sunday.
Amazing rant, 50 minutes long.
Yeah,
5-0.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the best rant I've heard him do in probably a year or two.
He was running. Yeah, as the kids say, he was running wild on the streets.
There's one core problem with all of these claims. This is the elected president of the United States. He determines if a document's classified or not. He determines a document is secret or not. He determines whether it's a government document or not. Congress can't do that. Justice Department can't do that. The intelligence community can't do that. This is an indictment saying Donald Trump used his own documents, kept his own documents, liked his own documents, and didn't want to give his own documents back. That's his constitutional right. So the problem with this case is the entire case is bogus. Instead, this is an attempt of the deep state to overturn our constitutional democracy, to say that they can tell the world when their secrets get to be disclosed. That's what this case is premised on. Donald Trump rebutting the lies of General Milley, who lied to Bob Woodward, who claimed that he had stopped Trump from waging war in Iran, when it was actually Trump that stopped Milley from waging war in Iran. Now, here Milley is, by the admission of the indictment, leaking actual information that he was not entitled to disclose, that he was not entitled to declassify, that he was not entitled to declare a personal record, that is subject to national security information laws because he is a lesser official subject to those laws. And yet there has been no indictment, not even investigation of Milley, and he's still in legal office today with Republicans in Congress doing jack about it. By contrast, the president, who is vested by the second article of the United States Constitution with all executive power. That means the president decides any information that comes in is classified for his benefit and his alone. It is only secret for his benefit and his alone. It is only national security information for his benefit and his alone. He can unilaterally declare anything declassified, not national security, a personal record, anytime he wants. The mere act of taking the documents with him, and let's remember, he's not taking original source documents. All of those exist because, as has been pointed out by members of Congress on a range of places, these are all digital documents, so they're digitally stored. So this is only about the president having rights to his documents as a matter of constitutional law. These are all his documents. The Presidential Records Act merely reflects that. I mean, I had these people saying, oh, he can't do this. Congress says otherwise with the national security. Imagine if Congress passed a law tomorrow that said, we hereby declare that if the president executes any of his second article duties, that is hereby a crime and goes to prison. That would be patently unconstitutional. They have no authority to limit the executive branch under Article 2. They are given zero executive enforcement powers. The unelected bureaucracy is given zero constitutional powers. They only have any powers at all because the president gave it to them. So consequently, the entire charge is nonsense. All the alleged crimes are gibberish. They are a direct attack on constitutional government in America. It is an attempt to say, we, the deep state, get to tell you what is and isn't a secret. We, the deep state, get to tell you what is and isn't classified. We, the deep state, get to tell you what is and isn't national security information. And even your elected president can't tell you our secrets or he goes to prison. That is how dangerous this criminal prosecution is. This goes way past Trump. This is the deep state war on democracy, such that if this crime is upheld, we don't have a constitutional democracy anymore. We have a deep state run government that has killed the Constitution in America.
It's the dream that we all share. It's the hope for tomorrow. Fuck yeah!
Offline, Nate, the lawyer, saying Trump's in deep trouble.
That's what Kurt thinks also.
Okay, so on civil too.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Where do you stand, Joe? You're the arbiter of all Trump.
As president of the United States, when he's taking these documents, everyone realizes that he has the right to take it. So it's a very strange thing that Jack Smith decided to charge him on that. There are numerous problems with this case. I think he has a stronger case with respect to the Sixth Amendment issues, wherein they really spend a lot of work coercing his attorneys to give up attorney-client work product and notes from meetings with Trump in ways that should shock the consciousness of every American out there. If you're going to be maintaining Sixth Amendment rights is right to counsel. If you have concerns, if you're a defendant in a case and you have concerns that you're going to ask basic questions that pretty much every criminal defendant is going to ask of their attorney, and and your questions are now going to become something that's subject to discovery by the prosecution, not just subject to discovery, but something they can actually throw in the indictment to imply guilt, that you're asking, well, what can we do here? What if the documents went missing? What if whatever? These are questions which every client, I mean, pretty much in a criminal defense case, is going to be asking their attorney to figure out, what are our options here? What happens with this? What if we do something a little shady? How would that's what from every criminal defense attorney I've spoken to, they field questions like that on a daily basis. That's not
Andrea, we've got one here.
I mean, so Andrea, please confirm or deny what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the point. Of course, as a criminal defense lawyer, you're not allowed to advocate illegal conduct. That's, kind of where that line is drawn on the crime fraud exception to attorney-client privilege. But if you don't have the lawyer implicated in, facilitating or advising, being complicit in criminal conduct, then yeah, that's a real problem for that type of communication to be getting exposed, because like you're saying, that's exactly why you have a criminal defense attorney, to be able to walk you through, what you need to do to protect yourself.
Right. So using his questions to his attorney as a way of trying to punish him is such a breach of everything foundational about our American judicial system that it's shocking. When I read that in the indictment, when I was reading it on air, I started losing it, because I think that this would terrify any criminal defendant, saying, how can I even communicate with my own attorney when my questions to them and my attorney may be used against me at some point in the future?
And Barnes that was an epic 15-minute rant that he did.
50.
It was really good. I would point people to that rant, because I hadn't really followed Barnes that much. I mean, I've followed Viva because he's been on here a couple of times, and boy, I really liked the way he put it together in a very strong and coherent way. And I think Joe's point earlier too about the violation of the attorney-client privilege is, and sadly, I gotta say, I have seen that recently, even at the local state level, that you get this. There's a real prosecutorial desire to break down the walls of attorney-client privilege. We've seen it in our expert witnesses. They can't write reports. We can't consult with them. You've got to disclose. You've got to say these things. And this is a very dangerous thing for the right of people to have counsel. We have, thankfully, Andre and I are both public defenders. You're a public defender, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to advise our clients, and we know where the line is, right? You don't say go destroy that gun or anything, but they want you're there and you're trying to help them. You've got somebody who's sick, who's got a cancer, and you're trying to save their life. And if they're prevented from telling you their symptoms, you can't help them. It is a nail in the coffin of the process that the Constitution is so desirous to protect. Most of the amendments of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, are designed to protect criminal defendants. And if you can't talk with an attorney about it fairly and honestly, without fear that it's all going to get disclosed, we might as well just start over. What is the new system that we all want to go to? What is it? Where are we going with this? Because once you lose these rights,
realpolitik, Steve. We are going to realpolitik.
Hold on, it's about to get heated.
Uh-oh.
Nate is here.
Beautiful.
Now you can talk about how Trump is doomed, that Jack Smith is a hero.
The walls are closing in.
The walls are closing in. So take it away, Nate.
But if you're telling me that he's wholly incapable of declassifying certain documents, I question under what constitutional basis Congress could ever strip the president of that authority.
Well, just to be clear, maybe it's in Article 2 where it says the president can declassify and declassify. So I think that's an implied assumption that you're making, right? Because unless you can show me in the Constitution where it says he can wholly declassify anything he wants, right? So
he's the head of the executive branch. What do you mean? But they write laws. They don't carry out laws. Is classifying and declassifying now part of legislation, or is it the actual carrying out of law?
Ghazi, I was hoping you would show up. This one just came in, so good to see you. And then one more, I want to ask Nate a question.
Me. Nate is trolling me. That's what he's doing. He's picking on me. I saw Joe was doing such a good job defending me that I defending my position, but I don't know. I had to come on and throw my Joe support, Nate. I'm not with you on this one today, Nate. We're on the opposite sides of the fence.
And Steve Gosney, how are you doing?
I'm in absolute agreement with Joe.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Joe is 100% correct. The problem is that all of these issues, when you read this, all of these issues do not take into account the position of president as the leader of the Article 2 executive branch. So the first thing that needs to be the first filter, the reason this is unprecedented and the reason this is such a malicious political prosecution is because he was the president and has the plenary power to declassify. Now, there are no nuclear documents. That has not been alleged, nor is that the FBI put that media out when they first released it, but that there are no nuclear codes type secrets that are referenced here. That is not what this is. But the question that I would have, and to kind of wrap your mind about it, and Andrea hit it kind of right on the money, is so we're saying that he could have declassified them with his plenary power, but he did not. And therefore, when he waved them around and said, look, classified documents, ha, 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 I took them out, didn't declassify them, and now, so he's basically setting himself up so that he can now brag, and now he could have done it, but because he didn't, then it's now a crime because he didn't declassify them. Okay, so my question is, to whom does he have to announce his decision to declassify to? As president, who does he go and tell that he has decided to declassify documents? Who is the person and who's the recipient of that notice?
Anyone on the planet, I believe. If he's saying something is declassified, he can't just declassify in his mind, right? He has to. Why not? Yes, other people have to. Other people can know. But then, all right. So how would you know it's declassified?
He could do it through conduct.
No, Trump actually showed them the documents and said that they weren't declassified. No, you said he was referencing article stuff.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
No, because it says in the indictment that you said you read. If you read the indictment, you would see it says. All right, so let me. So I'm going to read the part where they say he showed them the documents.
And the feds would never lie in an indictment.
Got him! Got him!
Yes, I mean, indictments are always true.
Yes, I believe everything they say as a criminal defense lawyer.
I mean, because that's what I tell my guys when they come into my office with an indictment, bro, you're guilty. Why bother?
And even...
Mr. Baker, you're a former FBI agent. Do you think that 17 omissions, 51 wrong assertions in a FISA application that, by the way, if you're going to get one right, don't you think the one that's targeting the President of the United States would be one you'd be particularly careful of?
Even if he did say that, it doesn't matter because his declassification can happen by his action of removing the document from the premises. When he is president and he removes the documents, puts them in his box, says, these are for my library, his action alone is sufficient to declassify by act. It's a de facto declassification.
Even if he doesn't know it.
Once it's declassified, it's over. He has done it by action. For him to then come and say, look, secret documents, aren't I sexy? Doesn't matter because it's already been, he cannot then reclassify something that's been declassified.
If we
has no authority to classify it at the point of being out of office. He has the power at the time he is president up until January 20th or whenever the swearing in to declassify by act. And that's what he did
to
here.
bring that point home with the example I gave earlier, in that if he walks around Central Park handing out classified documents and thinks he's breaking the law, doesn't realize that it automatically serves as a declassification, it still serves as a declassification. You can have a declassification that the president is doing without even realizing that he is doing it. So
and all of the declassification procedures that exist apply to everybody except the president.
The president is the boss. He's the chief of the executive branch. He needs to know what's classified, what's not declassified, which is why he alone has that unique power. Not the vice president, not anyone who's the head of the FDA, the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, and these other triple letter agencies. None of them had that same authority because ultimately they were all answerable to the president. But because
and in fact, Andrea had brought this point up, and her point was excellent. And that is, what are the magic words he's supposed to say? So, okay, so is there a list of abracadabra? And there's a very famous example in the Bush administration when they were talking about Gulf War documents. There were very highly classified documents that were given out, that were being reviewed within the White House, within the room, the little capsule. And he says, I think it was he was talking to one of his major underlings, but like one of the cabinet members, and he gave the document to him and says, "Well, take that home and review it." And then the person says, "Well, this is classified. I can't take it out of this room." And Bush just points at it and says, "Now it's declassified. Here it is." He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to wave a magic wand and say abracadabra. The fact is I'm the president of the United States. Here's a document. I'm ordering you to take this home and review it. That is the act of declassification sufficient for that person to take that out of the room and do it. He doesn't there's no magic word that he needs to say. If there is a magic word, what is that? And what is the source of your authority for that magic word?
It seems like he can say it's declassified, and we got to pretend it's still declassified. But then when he says it's declassified, then we got to. So I understand we're all lawyers and we're all trying to stretch this in whatever way. But Trump himself, they have him on tape himself saying he didn't classify certain things. He's going to court saying that just because he said something was declassified on tape to everyone doesn't mean it's declassified. And now everybody's sitting here telling me that he declassifies it in his mind and tells no one, and that's supposed to be a reasonable interpretation. And we're talking about this implied declassification, which, again, this will be the first time in U.S. history that I think this goes in that way, where the president just classified in his mind, doesn't tell anybody. Again, this is going to be for the jury to decide, but I think Trump is in trouble, and I think these arguments are fallacious at best.
Not an issue of jury. This is a legal issue for a judge.
It will be a legal issue. Yeah, I agree.
Would you disagree that's a legal issue as to whether it's a verbal act?
Because he's going to be arguing that he declassified them. So I'm thinking that that's going to be a matter of fact for the jury. He's going to say, I did it this way. The judge is going to make that ruling, but that's still going to be argued. You don't think the jury is going to... Have you read
the Clinton Sockshore case?
Yes, I have seen the Clinton Sockshore case.
So what is your interpretation of that?
Clinton, all right, as I made earlier, Clinton created the tapes. Clinton created those tapes. And then the tapes were wanted by the government.
So you're separating out the position of the executive from the underlings within the executive branch. You're saying that because...
No, you asked me about the Clinton tapes. So I'm saying
right. But you're making the distinction that Clinton made his notes, but that because Trump's documents were not made by Trump personally, then that somehow distinguishes them?
That definitely distinguishes them. And the Presidential Records Act happens with the presidential's personal notes and things that are given to the president. But things that are produced by government and government officials do not belong to the president. The Presidential Records Act, I'm assuming, as you know, deals with the personal property of the office holder of the president and the property belonging to the government that's taken in by the president or that he uses to execute his duties. That's what distinguishes the Presidential Records Act. But here we're not talking about documents that were created by the president, notes, or something that was given to him by a dignitary. We're talking about things that are created by the government for government purposes, and that are owned by the government.
The office of the president is not separate from the individual person of the president. I don't think that distinction holds at all. I think that the fact that the president is, or was at the time, Donald Trump. He is the personification. That means he has the absolute power of classification or declassification for all of his underlings within the executive branch. And so to say that there's a distinction there between some handwritten note that he makes from, say, the handwritten note that his secretary makes because it wasn't him, that you're trying to split the person from the office and the executive. This is why this is so problematic. It's a different case. It's not a traditional criminal case like Andrea or myself or you or Joe, any of us would normally deal with, because we are not dealing with a traditional criminal. We are dealing with the head of the executive branch during this time in question. That is a unique position within the government, and things are different when you're the president. It is a powerful position. It's a very powerful position, and he answers to nobody under the Article 2.
When we look at how the government has enforced the statute with respect to presidents leaving office, the government has basically exhibited that this is a completely legal way and this completely compliance with the law. You can't change the way that you're applying the law now when there's only been 6 different people this law has applied to. And with respect to the first 5, you didn't apply it this way. But now all of a sudden you're going to start saying I should be thrown in jail for doing exactly what other presidents did.
And following up on that, I want to follow up on that. And do we all remember when James Comey came before the public and said no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary Clinton for having a private email server while she was Secretary of the State, not as president, secretary? She had private emails, all kinds of things to deliberately avoid the Presidential Records Act and every other classification act, so she could conduct business and bribery outside of the zone of any kind of public scrutiny. And then she destroys that, smashes phones with hammers, and Comey himself, Mr. Ethics of the FBI, comes up and says, no reasonable prosecutor would ever prosecute this sort of crime. And she was the Secretary of State. She was not the president. And now we've got the President Trump, who takes some boxes for his presidential library of personal stuff. And it's like now he's Mr. Criminal number 1. It is clearly, the deep state is a thing. And the out of control DOJ and FBI is a thing. And this is exhibit number 1.
I think that's a bad argument, unfortunately. Because I think just like murder, not all murders are the same, right? Kyle Rittenhouse killed 3 people, but he didn't murder them, right?
Is it a bad? It may be a bad legal argument, but is it true?
Let me finish. Kyle Rittenhouse killed 3 people, and he was not guilty. We all screamed it. But there are other people who killed 3 people, and they're guiltiest, and they're doing life in prison. So just because 2 people do a similar act doesn't mean legally exactly the same. So you're right. I would have prosecuted Clinton. I think Clinton, but that's a totally different situation.
Nate,
and we all know that there is context in each individual.
Clinton is a much worse situation.
Again, I've been sitting here letting you guys speak and getting you. So let me just get this point.
It's one of the fundamental premises of our legal system that occasionally the guilty go free. And that is because it's so essential to preserve the fundamental structure, the basic liberties, and so forth that our country stands for. So when you have this type of selective prosecution that, from my perspective, seems plainly evident, like it's not hard at all to see the double standard that's being applied, that implicates the fundamental rule of law, not men, principle that justifies us having a legal system where we put people in cages in the first place. So it is far, far more damaging, far more destructive to the basic civilization that we live in, to not be applying the rules equally than to let him go free, prosecute everybody. It doesn't matter. The point needs to be that fair is fair, and there are not animals that are more equal than other animals in our system. If we lose that, then, we got much bigger problems than,
But to respond to that argument, that means Kyle Rittenhouse should be doing life in prison, right? Because if everyone who does something, murder, should be convicted, but there's nuance to it. But hold on, let me finish. There is nuance. There is nuance to all these things. So let's talk about the nuance in the Trump case. Trump was asked by the National Archives to turn over these documents. He refused. Then they went to a grand jury and got a subpoena. Then they gave statements, and they gave statements saying that, hey, we turned over everything under oath. Then they found out from a snitch in Trump's own camp that they didn't do it. Now you have somebody who's left office, who has all these secrets, that they believe are classified, that are still, matter of fact, marked classified. And the law says if they're marked classified, you treat them as classified. So then you get the subpoena, then you get the raid, right? Because he's now defied the subpoena. And now, if you read through the indictment, all the lawyers say, yeah, they were trying to hide documents. They was asking us whether they should return them over and all that stuff. So now with all this, now you get to the end where they say, okay, we have to charge this guy because we've got all these things. And at any point, he could have given them back. And now at the end, we're saying it's the same thing as, well, why didn't they prosecute this person 12 years ago? Why didn't they prosecute this guy 20 years ago? I just don't think dude, I will agree. The New York case is 100% selective prosecution. If his name wasn't Trump, he would not be being prosecuted in New York. But this case, again, I'm with Bill Barr, I'm with Turley. They all see this case and all see the nuance in it and say this is a serious case.
Can I also jump on Andrea's point too, which is about the rule of law and about how this is much more damaging to the rule of law, not only for the unequal treatment of Democrats and Republicans, but it's also, this is a prosecution of the former president who is the leading candidate for the opposition party to Biden by the Biden Justice Department. This is not a special counsel. There's no separation. This is Biden, the current president, prosecuting his main contender for paperwork.
We got 6 ways to Sunday to get you.
And
while saying that he has nothing to do with this.
Do the Democrats really want to put Trump in prison for the rest of his life? Because that's what they're saying they want to do. For this, which is not only selective, this is the most damaging, dangerous prosecution that this country has ever seen. This is a major constitutional crisis. And it is, and maybe my arguments may not be a legal defense, but they are surely a criticism of the prosecution as a political matter and as a lover of the country and the rule of law and the equal protection of law. This is an abuse, and this is something, as far as I'm concerned, they should burn the DOJ and the FBI to the ground and start over, salt the earth, because to me, the deep state does not run this country. The people run this country, and this is an attack on the individual sovereignty of our free country. That's how serious I believe this prosecution is.
Hold on. I'm going to jump in really quickly because I've got a bunch of super chats of people who want to get their points in. So let me go through these and I'm sure it'll cross. Let's go. Brandon saying Robert Gouveia would be begging to defer with Nate, I believe, on Trump being in legal jeopardy. And he agrees. Political prosecution jeopardy. This is a little different. Obviously, you guys have been saying that. I want to ask Nate a question. What statute may be written above the authority of a constitutional provision? Mm-hmm. And that is the last rant. What statute, Nate, may be above the authority of a constitutional provision is the question.
Zero.
Oh, okay.
Zero. Sorry, zero. I got a call with the time.
So then
absolutely none.
Okay, so then the argument is that because it was his department and everything else, and he was in office at the time, that he took it, that he had every right to do whatever the hell he wanted. And that kind of goes right back to the Barnes thesis, I believe.
Yeah, but Barnes is horribly wrong. Well, if I want to talk to Attorney General Barr, he'll tell you exactly why Barnes is wrong. But the key point is that these are government documents, government records. So these aren't personal records.
Government is Article 2. Government is the Constitution. The government is not something separate from the Constitution. The government is subservient to the Constitution. Yeah, Article 2, every department of every agency is under Article 2. So that is it's artificial to say the government is over here and the Constitution and the president's over here. No, the whole government is founded on our Constitution.
Yeah, that's not the point I was making. The point I was making is because of the property, personal property, and government property, right? Trump has personal property, but there's some of that property that happen to belong to the government. The secrets and stuff that actually belongs to the government. That's not his personal property.
Who is the government?
You would agree with that, right? The government, when Trump was in office, he was the government
property.
It doesn't belong to him personally, but it belongs to him as the agent, the top guy under Article 2. It's his government.
Okay, so just so I can put this to bed, right now I have a job working at a bank. I have documents. While I'm working at the bank, I can do whatever I want with those documents if I'm president of the bank. If I resign or get fired and I take those documents home,
you're speaking as an employee. You're an employee, though. There's a difference.
But
You're
so is
acting as the employee.
Trump is the
And you
employee of
don't
the
have
government.
plenary power
No,
that's why he
because you
gets
have to
paid.
answer to the banking administration.
Yes, but
The laws are
when
totally.
I leave my job, I don't have that power. So when Trump left his job, he doesn't have that authority to do whatever he wants with those documents.
A better example for you, Nate.
Nate,
I'm helping you. I'm helping you, Nate.
and why he
Nate,
was
I'm
president.
helping you. Nate, I'll help you. A better example is O'Keefe in Project Veritas. That you're saying that he's answerable to the board ultimately. That's what essentially that's a better analogy than just some banking official, right? He's the founder.
We all know. Let's just cut the BS. We all know there's things that belong to a job and things belong to you personally. The old documents didn't belong to Trump when he was working there. When he was the president, he was getting a salary to do it. Yes, he could do whatever he wants with those documents. We're talking about what he was doing with the documents afterwards. They didn't belong to him. They belonged to the government, and he asked for them back. I understand.
When did he take the documents,
But that simply. It doesn't matter if you take the documents while you're employed and then you get fired or lose and then you keep the documents for a year later.
Well, no,
they're
that was
still
part
not
of your
your
argument.
documents.
That was
And
part of
his
your argument,
document.
Nate, because part of your argument was when you take the documents. You were saying that if you took the documents after you were done working at the bank, that would be something. But the thing is that he was still president when he took those documents. So I think that was to,
He turns 30 and turns into a genius.
Maybe I have to clarify. Even if he took the documents a year while he was in the presidency, lost the presidency, and still has the documents, those documents are not his. They still belong to the government. So if just in case anybody wants this in clarification, if he had the documents while he was president, he could do whatever he wants. But if he still retains those documents after January 20th at 12 o'clock, as the indictment says, those documents are supposed to be returned back to the place of employment, which was the thing. So he does not own those documents. Anybody who's making that argument, there's nothing I can tell you. That's just essentially common sense.
but he classified them by the act of taking them.
Right. And I think we're at a complete impasse on that argument. I mean, I really think it's
Eric wants to go. Eric wants to go.
I have to. No, I have to go. And I want to put it out to the audience. Seriously, comment below. I'm going to cut this clip out. I hope everybody really does share it. It is a nice heated debate, but I do actually have to go. I apologize, but there is an impasse. We're not budging on it. Nate is saying he doesn't have the right. Once the office ends, he loses possession of everything he ever had. And you are saying, no, he had the possession of it. It became his property. And if he took his property when he left, he took his property with him. Those are the two arguments that I'm hearing. And nobody is budging from either side.
I still love you,
the
Nate.
Wisdom.
I still love you, brother.
Props to Nate for being the
commentary.
only seeming leftist on the panel. That's not an easy task. That's not an easy position to be in.
And
Hey,
the reason I'm
you
telling you
don't
I
now.
still love you is to show I can still be merciful in victory. So
Hey, listen. You know what? I will say this. I think everybody in the comment section is going to agree. But again, I don't tell people what I think. What I think they want to hear. I tell them how I feel. That's why I was able to say Rittenhouse is right. That's why I'm able to say I think Trump is wrong here. But again, we disagree, and this will make these panels fun. The fact that we can disagree and we can still be friends. I'll be on your show yelling at you probably tomorrow night, Joe. So it just is what it is.
yeah.
And that makes it the best.
Just hold on. Just before you go, the people I've been arguing inside the Pep Boy, and the people in here agree with you guys. So I hate you people.
So who agree? Is it majorities at Minnie, Mo, and Jack, or just Minnie and Mo?
No. There's three of us, so they have to put you guys on speaker when you guys speak. So they really like Joe and Andrea. And then so early when I was like I was speaking to them, and then they said this other guy, I don't agree with him, but he's making good points. So they're like, why don't they just asked me why I hate Trump? So I'm like, I don't hate the guy. What do you mean? So anyway, that's what I'm going through right now.
Whataboutism equals rule of law in case someone tries to use the term as an argument.
Right. It's called equal protection under the law. Ask if you think it's only Trump that the deep state's after, ask some January 6th people about that equal treatment under the law. It's all of us. It's the people that are being targeted by these deep staters. So I'm very much concerned where our country's headed.
Of the people, by the people, for the people.